University of Rabat, the rest of Moroccan administrations and international partners that made possible this very exciting 2 days conference on residencies here in Rabat. Very briefly, I would like to explain.
I'm going to do the translation for the presentation I'm going to do to Arabic because they don't have the headsets.
Okay.
So just repeat a little bit what you have said.
Okay. Are you going to do this?
Yeah.
They said to me that he's going to translate me into French or Arabic? Arabic, because the translation is not working well.
إذا سأقوم بالترجمة باللغة العربية.
So I would like to start thanking very much the General Directorate and as well the University of Rabat and as well all the Moroccan administrations and the different international partners that made possible these 2 exciting days conference on recidivism here in Rabat.
إذا مساء الخير. أود الشكر المندوبية مندوبية السجون والجامعات في الرباط، كل وزارات وكل الفاعلين الجمعويين الموجودين هنا اليوم للحديث على ظاهرة العود.
Very briefly, and for understanding why I'm in the program, as I said in the program, I am a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, but I'm working as well at the prison and probation system in the regional area of Catalonia, Spain since 1992.
إذا أنا أخصائي نفسي أعمل في القطاع السجني في إسبانيا.
I have been in different positions. I work in a prison, I work at the headquarters, I work in the probation service, and since the last year I'm working at the Center of Legal Studies, which I explain later on in what consists.
إذا عملت في قطاعات متعددة، عملت في القطاع النفسي، عملت في القطاع السجني في الإدارة المركزية، وأعمل الآن في كل ما هو دراسات وأبحاث.
Going to the point, the subject of the conference, I would like to make 2 previous considerations.
إذا أود أتحدث عن اعتبارين في موضوع العودة.
On the whole territory of Spain, the criminal code law is the same. So we have criminal law that establishes which are the penalties for different offences, and it is common for all of the country.
إذا لدينا نظام قضائي موحد في كل إسبانيا، نظام جنائي موحد في كل ربوع المملكة الإسبانية.
It does matter that since 1984, the regional administration of Spain allow the region of Catalonia to run their own competences in prison and probation.
إذا كما تعلمون منذ 1984 فقد قامت الحكومة الإسبانية بالسماح لإقليم كاتالونيا بإدارة أعماله بشكل محلي.
And this is why very in concrete, under the umbrella of the Catalonian administration, we have an independent body called the Center of Legal Studies, which has 2 duties: the duty of train the staff, prison and probation, as well they start working at courts, and at the same time we do research on matters related with justice.
إذا في إقليم كاتالونيا لدينا، وهو إقليم ينضوي تحت المملكة الإسبانية، لدينا كما تعلمون حكم ذاتي في كاتالونيا، وهناك مركز للتكوين المستمر لكل العاملين في ميدان القضاء، للعاملين في الحالات القضائية وكل الفاعلين.
In any way, the results that I'm going to present and I am going to talk on are really very similar in Spain and in Catalonia because the law is the same. So there is no matter to say that the results that I'm going to present are based on the studies that we did on the Catalonian population, but are basically the same that the results in the rest of the country.
إذا كما تعلمون فما سأقوم بتقديمه الآن النظام القانوني والقضائي في إسبانيا هو شبيه تماما، نفس النظام القانوني والقضائي بإسبانيا هو الذي ينطبق على كاتالونيا. إذا النتائج التي سأقوم والمخرجات التي سأقوم بالحديث عنها ستكون نفسها نفس إسبانيا وكاتالونيا.
So very briefly, what I want to tell you is about 4 chapters. The first is to talk about the methodology and the data available, the general conclusions that we can take from this data, which are the work in terms of communication that we used to do, and the impact in the organization of our data.
So you said the four, right?
The four chapters is one. The first one is about the methodology of work and the data payload.
إذا لدينا خارطة الطريق منقسمة إلى أربع أقسام. القسم الأول هو القسم المتعلق بطريقة العمل والمعلومات المتوافرة.
The second one is about the general conclusions that we can take from this data.
القسم الثاني مرتبط بالخلاصات والمخرجات العامة التي سنستشفها من هذا التقديم.
The third one is about the communication of this data to the academic society and as well to the whole society.
إذا القسم الثالث مرتبط بتوصيل هذه المخرجات إلى المجتمع المدني.
And the last one is about the impact that we want that the organization has from our data.
والمسألة الرابعة مرتبطة بالوقع على المجتمع.
Going briefly into the first chapter, I will mention that we used to do three kind of studies.
إذا بطريقة العمل كنا نقوم بثلاث أنواع من الدراسات.
The first one of studies are serial ones, are studies related with different kinds of penalties that can be imposed to offenders.
الدراسة الأولى متعلقة بمختلف ومجموع العقوبات التي يمكن أن تنطبق على العقوبات سلب الحرية.
Sequential means that we do this each 5 years, so we can compare the data looking after the 5 years of the last study.
إن هناك ما يسمى بالتصميم الخماسي، دراسة خماسية ل5 سنوات.
It's really a pity that we cannot show the data on the slides, but what I simply want to tell you that we have studies about prison recidivism, probation recidivism, and studies about juvenile justice recidivism.
إذا لدينا العود ولدينا حالات الانحراف الشباب.
The last study published on prisons in 2014 showed that the rate of recidivism was 30.2% of all inmates who have been released after 5 years.
إذا في دراسة تم إطلاقها في 2014 تظهر الدراسة بأن هناك 30.4% من حالات العودة.
The most interesting thing is that you compare different groups of this sample. You can see that those who have served the end of the sentence in a close contact with the community or even on parole have a less level of recidivism than those who have been released directly from prison without having contact with the community.
إذا الأشخاص الذين قضوا في هذه الدراسة تظهر الدراسة بأن الأشخاص الذين قضوا عقوبات سلب الحرية وكان لديهم تواصل مع المجتمع حالة العودة عندهم منخفضة جدا.
Moreover, when we studied the results coming from those who have received a probation sentence, those people even have less recidivist rates than those who have serving a prison sentence and have been in contact with the community.
الدراسة أيضا تظهر بأن الذين استفادوا من حالة الإصلاح إطلاق السراح المشروط لديهم حالة عود أقل بكثير من الذين قضوا محكوميتهم.
In all these studies, if you have a look into our data, we can see that we do not only offer this big data, we offer as well data segregated but social, familiar, and all other aspects, issues of offenders.
بطبيعة الحال الإحصاءات البيج داتا التي نقدمها على حسب الفئة العمرية، الجنس، المكان السكن وما إلى ذلك من البيانات.
The second kind of studies that we run up are studies related with the impact of the application of concrete programs. The main goal is to know which is the real effect of applying a program, and of course we make comparison among those who did not receive the program with those who have yet received the program.
وبطبيعة الحال نقوم بدراسة وقع الأشخاص النزلاء الذين استفادوا من برامج تكوينية وعلاقة هذا بمعدل العودة إلى المؤسسة السجنية.
And finally, the third type of research that we carry on are related with the level of residues of different kinds of offenders who have different difficulties, psychiatric difficulties, or they present high risk of reoffending, or even who have been involved in violent or not violent offenses.
إذا وبطبيعة الحال هناك دراسة أخرى لحالات العود لدى الأشخاص النزلاء الذين يعانون من إعاقات ذهنية ربما من مشاكل نفسية من سلوكات خطرة في التعامل مع الأفراد الآخرين.
I would like, as the second part of my presentation, to tell you about the main conclusions that we took off of these studies.
إذا في الجزئية الثانية من الدراسة أو الحديث معكم على المخرجات العامة من لهذه الدراسة.
Many of them are very related with what the literature, international literature said, but as we was said previously, each local environment need to have each local indicators that are applicable or are able, useful for this country.
إذا كما قلنا فكل منطقة لديها معايير مختلفة عن المنطقة الأخرى، معايير تصنيف مختلفة للسجناء.
First conclusion, the application of sanctions in the community or the contact with the community before to be completely released is a condition that predict very well reducement of the level of recidivism.
إذا تطبيق هذه المعايير بطبيعة الحال والتواصل المادي للسجين قبل الخروج إلى المجتمع هو أمر مهم جدا في تخفيض نسبة العودة.
Second conclusion, as we said today, to guarantee the success in the process of the rehabilitation, the collaboration among different administrations and the community is basic for guarantee less level of recidivism.
إذا بطبيعة الحال التدخل وإعادة إدماج الأشخاص مرتبط بمجموعة من العوامل المجتمعية.
Third conclusion, the relapse moment are very related with the first moment after release. So the 60% of people commit reoffend during the first year after being released, and if we look into the second year, the 87% of people commit the crime after the second year. So the first 2 years are very important.
إذا السنتين أول سنتين هما مهمتان في تحديد سلوك السجين وإذا ما كان السجين سيعود أو لا.
Coming from this conclusion, a very clear conclusion is that the exact moment of being released is a very critical moment, and from the very beginning of the incarceration, these moments need to be well prepared. Otherwise, we can see situations, as we saw in the video, that there is no options for people coming out of prison at the very beginning, which is very important.
إذن الاختيار المناسب لتاريخ إطلاق السراح وخلق السلاسة في الانتقال من حياة السجن إلى الحياة العادية هو أمر مهم جدا بالنسبة في إسبانيا.
The next conclusion is that the programs of rehabilitation work, and especially when they are very related to the RNR, risk need responsibility model, and they are very well addressed to the target population that make take profit of these programs.
إذن بطبيعة الحال إطلاق السراح مرتبط بالمسؤولية والمحاسبة.
And finally, is that we can identify at least 4 groups of people. The first one is the called people who commit offense because they have a good opportunity, and these are the group that has the fewer level of recidivism.
إذن هناك 4 مجموعات. أول مجموعة هي المجموعة التي ترتكب الجناية لأن لديها فرصة سانحة لارتكاب الجناية.
Then we have what we call the new delinquency ones who commit crime for the first time, normally not very young, and these people has as well low level of recidivism.
ولدينا الجانحون ما يسمى بالجانحين الجدد ونسبة العود فيهم تكون منخفضة.
Then we have recurrent offenders, Normally, it's people who have not committed crimes against with violence or sexual ones, but they are people who constantly are committing crimes, and they are the level of recidivity is higher than the normal one.
ولدينا الجنات بالعادة.
And the last one, sorry for extending the time, is that all this information, if you ask my colleagues from Spain, you can obtain the website when you can see all this research with some summaries in English.
التواصل معنا أو إلقاء نظرة على الموقع الإلكتروني لنا لأخذ معلومات مفصلة وإحصائيات مفصلة. شكرا.
Thank you very much.
Merci.